Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing, with your hosts Glenn Thayer and the CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young.
Folks, welcome back to another episode of the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. Today, Tom and I are going to talk about the online conversion funnel. Now, I know if you go back to a lot of the other podcasts that we've done here over the last couple of years, we've talked about conversions a lot. So you can go back and listen about conversions to your heart's content. However, one of the things that we're really dialing in today is the process that your users go through when they arrive at your website, the process that goes through their mind before they contact you or they make a purchase. And so we're just going to really kind of go through that and bring that back to light, because if you've got a lousy conversion funnel and a lousy conversion process, you're leaving money on the table. You're losing conversions right there. So, Tom, let's just kick it right off. What is specifically the online conversion funnel?
It is really the path that users are going to take to find your website and to convert either to an online sale through e-commerce or through an inquiry or lead generation. And what's really key here is that you understand the different types of funnels that different types of customers use to convert with your website, that we don't wing it, that we plan it out, and then that you use Google Analytics to actually track the very specific funnels as goals. And one of the reasons I even use the word funnel is, in the old days of selling, the salesperson used to have, the sales funnel where they'd move people through their sales funnel and close the sale. Well, Google uses that now, that same term, in their stats program, Google Analytics, which is the world's leading stats program for the web. And so that term, and it's free. And so that term is very important. And you have to think about the people that interact with your website, and even Google, because they'll go to Google before they find you, as a funnel, as a process that moves them through to finally to conversion. And the sites that have the highest conversion rates are the ones that understand their own funnels and user needs, and they move people through the funnel. Keeping in mind that funnels are based on content, website pages, photos with captions, and that different users can take different paths based on how you segment their users. And then they can also come to you from other websites like social media websites like Facebook and so forth. But that's what that is. That's what the online conversion funnel is all about.
So how does do we have any examples of how the funnel works?
Yeah, there's lots of examples, and I just jotted a few down here in my notes. One is real estate websites, and real estate websites are very interesting because what they want from the user is to either buy or sell a home, right? That's what they want, but the user, that's not usually on their mind when they're on a real estate website. What's on their mind is searching for properties and trying to get a sense of how that property is going to meet their needs. And the idea of buying or selling is probably not in the forefront of their mind as much as it is checking the house out, understanding the house, and seeing it. So what's
the location like? What are the schools like? How far is it from the freeway?
The whole experience. It's the biggest purchase of their life. So what real estate websites do in their funnel is home search. The first thing you'll see on the top real estate websites is start searching, start looking. Because we know once we can get you in there and you can start looking, that if you find something that you're interested in, that will usually become a conversion. Right. And then poor real estate websites talk about themselves, how great they are, their experience. They feature a few properties with some bad photos, and they're just not going to convert it at the rate that Realtor.com or Remax.com or those types of websites.
What about Netflix?
Yeah, Netflix is we've talked about it in the podcast. They're great with their conversion because basically it's a very straightforward sell, but they're big on either a free month of a trial or how it works. In fact, they only have 3 conversion points on their website, which is brilliant. Either get your free month trial, browse our selection, or look into how it works if you're more of an analytical person. So this is all part of their sales funnel. In fact, if you look at their website, you'll see things like arrows that point you through the funnel and, do this and then do that and then do this and then boom. So their sales funnel is like their website. Somebody charted out a sales funnel and said, let's make this into a website. And there you go on Netflix. Product websites, like we talked about Zappos and Amazon, they start with shop and compare, related products. Other people have purchased this, So if you're on Zappos and you're, especially if you're a woman and you're looking at a pair of pants and you want to find some shoes as an accessory, well, there's a whole group of accessories, including shoes, that other people bought that go really well with those pants. In fact, most of the models that you'll see on product websites that are wearing clothing, obviously a lot of times they have shoes on and they have accessories on. I think it would be a cool feature to be able to actually click on the accessory that the model is wearing and basically add those to your cart. Because I just know that a lot of women, I don't know, maybe guys do this too. I don't, but some guys probably do it. But a lot of women,
I think very few guys do that, actually.
But women look at a model and say, "Oh, isn't that cute? What she's wearing?
That's a cute outfit.
That is a cute outfit. How can I just buy that outfit?" So that is an example. I mean, it's another example of a sales funnel because you're pulling people in, they're looking at images, and before you know it, they're filling their cart up with these things.
Well, how does social media play into this for sites like MySpace or Facebook, especially Facebook now,
yeah.
With all their pages and being able to have the advertising and searches and everything going right into Facebook? How does that work with the funnel?
Well, Facebook is huge for this, and in fact, it's what you're seeing is website marketers scrambling like crazy to try to figure out how can we use all the traffic from Facebook and all the interactions on Facebook to start the process of a sales funnel. I mean, Facebook would be at the very top of the funnel, right? So if you're a lead generation website, obviously it's going to be the content and perhaps some offers or promotions or giveaways that's going to drive people on the website. If you're an e-commerce site, what I think you're going to see, and you're starting to see it already, is basically a very blurry line between Facebook and your website. And you'll soon be able to just order from Facebook. So a friend will link to the Zappos website. In fact, we probably could go look at Zappos now and see what they do on Facebook. But you'll just have a direct link and you'll buy from Facebook. And then you'll see a combination of kind of forces from Google, from Facebook, from the website, from friends, from email, all being the beginning part of this conversion funnel based on the hot points for the user, which might be pricing, selection. In Zappos' case, it's probably going to be customer service and pricing and this great return policy. But yeah, absolutely. This has got to be part of your web strategy. And if you think of it as a funnel and you put Facebook at the top, then the ideas will start to come as far as how do you stimulate that traffic from Facebook into your website.
Well, here's an interesting thing with Facebook because isn't it true that Facebook, once you like a business, because since we're talking about businesses, you like a business on Facebook, can't the person who owns that business page have exclusive content that can only be accessed by somebody who clicks the like button?
Yeah,
I think there's a way that you can set it up so you have it's almost like a loyalty program, or come get something you can't get anywhere else. Just click like and you can get it here.
Yeah, and that whole process is, the way that's going to move in the future is there's going to be a much tighter connection between Facebook and e-commerce websites, because I think Facebook is still trying to find a way to develop a revenue stream. And I think it'd be a great way for them to do that. And I'm actually looking at the Zappos site, which what's interesting about Zappos is that the Facebook link is just not prevalent to me. I haven't seen it yet. I've been scrolling up and down. But I bet if you go to Facebook and search Zappos, they'll have a Facebook.
Yeah, they do have it. They've got one right there. Yeah, it's facebook.com/Zappos.
Right. And so it's interesting that what I'm guessing that they don't want you to leave the website and go to Facebook and start chatting with your friends. They want you to stay on the Zappos.com site when you're there. So they're really not in any way showing you or giving you a link to Facebook. And that's probably a smart move because they get enough traffic that they can just get that traffic directly from Facebook. Now they do have the I Love Zappos icon at the bottom, but I made no connection there between Facebook and that graphic. So that's a little bit of you wonder what the strategy is behind that. But it looks interesting. You click on it and it looks like a Facebook. It has the same colors as Facebook, but it doesn't look like it's actually Facebook. It looks
is that like an affiliate program?
Yeah,
it
looks like they want me to add this to
your MySpace
page or something. So
yeah, that's what it is. But it's an interesting thing because on Facebook it does say, let's be in a like relationship, gain access to exclusive content.
Right.
So if you like it, if you hit like, then you have something else. I'm going to like this, and people are going to go, what? You like Zappos.com? I just want to see what the exclusive content is. So if I hit like, it's going to load up a bunch of stuff from Zappos. They've got Fans of the Week.
It looks like a Zappos.
And it looks
the
like
beginning of a Zappos website. So what's interesting, though, is that when you have a business like a Zappos that has a pretty huge marketplace and a pretty huge list of fans and subscribers and customers, you can start to do these things with Facebook. When you're a small business, it has to be much more niche and much more focused with what you do on Facebook. And it's obviously going to be a lot smaller approach, but the value can still be there because you have customers, you have a business. So focus on that value and use Facebook, in this case, to be the top of that funnel to bring them in and hopefully eventually have a connection with your company and become a customer.
Absolutely. Well, let's go back to the regular websites now. And how can website owners and marketers set up a funnel on their existing websites? And we're going to make some assumptions here that there may or may not be a sales funnel set up. So if they have kind of a sales funnel or none at all, how do they go about doing that?
Well, most websites, we've talked about this for years, and it's still the case. Most business websites are just online brochures. So there really is no form of a sales funnel there. It's just an About Us kind of page. They might list products and services and so forth. The way to set up a sales funnel on your site is if you're an e-commerce site, let's do that one first. Go and look at what Zappos and Amazon, Best Buy, and these Netflix are doing. They're great at this. And the more of what they do that you can introduce into your site, the better. If you are looking to generate leads, then you've got to understand that lead generation will come from content distribution, and content that is on your site. So have a blog integrated with your website where you talk about key issues in the industry, in the marketplace. Have an email newsletter that you archive and you send out monthly. Basically, in a lot of ways, do what we do at Intuitive Websites. Go look at our resource section, and you can see that content is what drives people to contact us and say, we want to know more about your services. You can do the same thing. Become product experts in your industry. And then, include this in your navigation menu. Make sure that the navigation menu is seen as a funnel. And this is a real important point. In user testing and in our stats, we see this over and over again. Whatever is to the furthest left and top of your website is going to get the most attention and the most clicks. So, you probably don't want to have the About Us button there. You probably want to have your services and products and your resource type information there, your blog and so forth, because that's the kind of content that will convert you over. Now, if you want to just include it in your services, then focus on benefits, not features, which is Sales 101. Focus on the value that customers get from your services, not so much on how great you are. All those things are the building points of a conversion funnel. And then this all ties into the fact that the more content you have on the website, the better the chance of conversion and the better chance you'll be listed in Google for the terms you want to be listed on. So it's just a good way to go on a website in general. And we're recommending that our clients that are lead generation websites have 400 to 500 pages or more of content.
Now, how does somebody get that much content? Because I know some of our listeners, their heads are going to be spinning 400 to 500 pages. I have myself. I might be a sole proprietor. Sole proprietor. There's nobody else that works for you, or you might have a staff of 5 people. How do you generate 400 to 500 pages of content?
Oh my gosh, it seems crazy, doesn't it? But if you start with one page a day, you've got 300 plus pages by the end of the day.
So what is a page? Let's qualify what a page is, because if somebody's thinking, I've got to write an entire paper. I mean, could that just be a paragraph on something? Could that just be a paragraph?
It could be a blog post. It's a paragraph, absolutely. But here's the bottom line. Marketing and sales have changed. In the old days, you picked up a phone book and you started calling, more or less. I mean, you generated your own leads, right? In the old days, that's what you did. Picked up the phone and made calls and went to see people. That doesn't work anymore. So now, instead of doing that, you have got to have the communication skills to be able to write and post good content on the web that people can relate to. That's what's replaced this idea of chasing leads around. I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday who's a successful realtor here in Colorado Springs, and we talked about the fact that in the old days, you'd go knocking on doors more or less and try to shake the trees up and find some leads. And now you don't. You wake up in the morning and you blog and you post stuff about trends in real estate. Trends, and there's a lot to talk about. If you need something to talk about, just go open the paper. And there's stuff about real estate in the paper every day. So in your industry, the same thing's happening. So the selling and marketing skill sets of old don't apply anymore. The new skill sets are around writing content, talking about who you are, talking about the industry, and then people find you, make a connection to that content, and contact you and convert.
And you also don't have to have all of the content. I think that's where the hiccup happens. Is too many people think that they have to have original content they're creating every single day. You can also be a content curator.
Yeah,
and that's just more of what you're doing is whatever field you're in or your expertise, you say, okay, hey, I found this article that was written about my industry. It's like you find a new book, like Tom, perfect example.
Yeah,
you find a new book.
Comment on a new book, on an article, a newspaper posting, whatever.
Yeah, and this is how it relates to people who are my customers or my clients. This book would benefit them. This article would benefit them. So now you've summarized that, put that on your website, and linked to it, and said, here's where it is. So now you've given them more value. And you haven't had to go out and write original content. You're just commenting on it and how it can be used.
And photography is a great way to post content. If you have a project that you're working on, go out to the field every day and take some photos of what's happening and put a couple captions in there. Great content. And I guess, I think the important thing for website owners and marketers is to understand this shift. And understand that you're marketing through your website, and it's a shift in how you sell.
Now, what about clutter? I mean, some people's websites are just so cluttered. How does that become a barrier?
Well, there's two things that we want to talk about as far as barriers to conversion in this funnel, because once you get the content in place, you have a good navigation system, and people start to move through the funnel, what can really slow them down is if there's too many options. Because then you really don't have a funnel. You've got, a pizza, with too many toppings. You just don't know where to go. You want the funnel to send them toward the Contact Us page, which is another thing that could be a barrier. Because if you don't have a good Contact Us page, they'll leave. And I would set a Contact Us page actually as a goal in Google Analytics, because that is an accomplishment if people end up there. So we've talked about this in another podcast. So you can go back and listen to them. But the websites that are really good, like the Zappos and the Netflix and so forth, and actually Best Buy is doing a great job of this, is they give people actually much fewer options than what they have in their company, and they let those options be the starting point and the beginning for the funnel. So the fewer the options, the better the results you'll see in conversions and in your funnel.
And one of the big things with the Contact Us page, and this is maybe a personal issue on there, is please have all of your information listed on your Contact Us page.
Yes.
Not just having a Contact Us form. Seeing that even though there's a form, I've got a form on my website, and people use the form. People don't call me. They use the form.
They do. They really
However,
do.
You have to have that phone number there. You have to have your email address in there, and it can't just be info. It has to be to a person, because when I look at that, I was like, oh, somebody's actually going to get this. So when I enter the form, and I don't call people either, I use the form. However, when I see that there's a phone number and I see an actual email address to a person, I feel confident somebody will return that email through the form.
Right, exactly. Absolutely.
So what are the action items for this podcast, Tom?
Well, I think that, like we've said in many podcasts, go in your web marketing strategy, go in there and put a funnel together and just write out the steps that you think users will take before they contact or buy from you. Definitely set up Google Analytics and set up goal tracking in Google Analytics that matches what you just outlined in your strategy. And then, of course, watch what happens in Google Analytics and make changes as you need to drive those conversions. Watch your web stats on a weekly basis. I would recommend for most of us. We talked about having an excellent Contact Us page. We have a podcast just on the Contact Us page. Go and listen to that. Get the skills and understand how to write conversion-based content that includes not just written content, but, as Glenn said, links to other resources, other content, photos, images and graphics, whatever it might be. Look at Netflix and how they use graphics. Best Buy does the same thing, uses graphics really well to drive you through this sales funnel. Also include a blog that you have the discipline to post to on a regular basis. Even if it's monthly, that's a plus. And then, finally, really understand how your users convert and segment out your users, because different people convert in different ways. And that's really the bottom line. The more you can understand that and the more you can implement these strategies, the higher your conversion rate across the board.
Well, folks, thanks again for joining us. Also, remember, if you have anything that you want us to talk about, any questions that you have, feel free to email us. You can email us at info@intuitivewebsites.com. You can shoot Tom an email, and that's tom@intuitivewebsites.com. Feel free to just give us a holler. Got questions, want some subject for us to cover during the podcast, please do that. Once again, thanks for joining us.
This has been an Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. For more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitiveblog.com. If you have a website you would like us to review or an issue you would like to see covered in future podcasts, email us at info@intuitivewebsites.com.